All right, so MRI safe IV pumps that are located here at Highlands Ranch Hospital and all throughout the university system. I'm just going to show how to use this properly. So this is your MRI safe IV pump. At your hospital, you probably have 1, 2, 3 of these. Each pump can run 2 drug channels. This pump is safe to go right up against the magnet. Doesn't matter if it's a 1.5 or a 3T. This thing is safe in your zone 4. This, like I said, is your pump, and then over here you have a remote control. This is going to be in zone 3 where your techs are. Notice this screen and this screen are identical, so if I know how to work one, I know how to work the other. But obviously safe to go into zone 4. This is going to stay in zone 3. This cannot go into the magnet room. And then each pump needs its own remote control. So you'll notice that if you have 2 or 3 pumps, you're going to have 2 or 3 remotes because each pump is going to have its own remote. All right, so that's your equipment. Then next thing would be tubing. So there are 3 types of tubing. I have 2 here. So this one here is the 1058 extension set. This one would connect to your Alaris tubing. So if I'm running a line in the ICU and I want to continue that bag, I would take my 1058 extension, connect it to the distal port of my Alaris tubing, and I can just continue that line. This one here is a 1056 standard set. This one has a spike and a drip chamber. So if I wanted to start a new bag or a new bottle from scratch, this is what I would use. And then the one I don't have right now is the 1057 syringe. So if I wanted to run a syringe instead of a bag or a bottle, then I would use that one. So those are your 3 options. Basically, start a new bag or bottle from scratch, continue an Alaris line, or run a syringe. So first thing I want to do is prime my line. So I've already got an Alaris line primed here. So what I'm going to do is take my extension set. The extension set is part 1058. And I've already got it out of the bag. But all I'm going to do is take my Alaris line and connect it to my extension set. And it's just a lure lock, like so. So now I can continue my Alaris line instead of starting over. I'm going to undo my Alaris line so I can prime my line. Anytime you bring one of the Iradimed sets out of a bag, it's going to be completely open, completely free flow. So the first thing I'm going to do is prime my line. But like I said, when it comes out of the bag, it's open and it's ready to go. Now, after I prime my line, I have to physically clamp off this black clamp. So this black clamp and this blue clamp are basically the same thing, but on my Alaris, I take this and I just put it into the pump and the pump takes care of it. On this black clamp, I have to physically clamp it off. So when it comes out of the bag, it's gonna look like this. That's completely open, completely free flow. And I already primed my line. So after I prime my line, I'm going to push in the smooth end, pull the rigid end, and I have an indentation on the back side. If I have that indentation, it's going to be good to be loaded into the pump. If I don't have that indentation, the pump will alarm as soon as I load it. So we'll show that here in a minute, but that's what I want to do after I prime my line. Now on the other side, I already have a line. So this is my 1056 standard set. It's just spiked directly into the bag. So no Alaris line on this side. So this is the 1056 spiked directly into the bag. And I'm just going to open this up, prime my line. All right, got my line primed. Same thing over here. So just like on the extension set, comes out of the bag like that. That's completely open, completely free flow. And then after I prime my line, I'm going to push, pull, and then I have my indentation on the back side here, and then it's ready to be loaded into the pump. All right, so that's our equipment and our lines. So now we're ready to get into the pump. You should have this cheat sheet hanging on your pump. You want to make sure to follow 1, 2, 3, first, second, third. All that's saying is order of operations. The thing with this pump is it can be finicky if you don't do it the way it wants it to be done. So if you go in this order, it's going to make life a lot easier on you. So first thing it says to do is turn on the pump. So here are my on and off buttons. On top, off on the bottom, turn it on. And then I'm also going to turn on my remote control. These do not have to be turned on at the same time. As long as this is running, as soon as I turn on my remote will look for this and it'll sync up. So as long as this is on, whenever I turn on my remote, it'll find it and you'll be good to go. There's the synchronization. Okay, so turned on my equipment. Second thing on my sheet is load the IV set. So for loading the IV set, I'm just gonna open up my door. It's just a down and out, opens up my door. And then I'm always looking for this section of tubing right here. Okay, so the disc is gonna go into this slot first. Then with your Alaris, you're used to taking that blue clamp and putting it into the machine. This is actually gonna face out. So it's opposite of the Alaris. Easiest way to do it is hold it with my thumb underneath like so, kind of angle the top in and push, you'll hear it click. And then you wanna make sure that you're feeding in between those two black sensors right there. That's my air bubble detector. So if I'm ever getting an air bubble alarm on this machine, it's happening right here, okay? Now, I wanna show you, if you don't do this black clamp correctly, let's say I didn't have this indentation and I just did it to flush. Now when I load it, it starts alarming right away. So if you ever load an IV set and it starts alarming, it's probably your black clamp. So once again, the proper way is to have an indentation on the back side, load it in there. Now I get no alarm. Make sure I'm feeding that in between my black sensor. Good to go. Close my door all the way, close my latch all the way. There is a latch on both the inside and the outside here. So you just want to make sure that you're closing both sides. If you only close one side, you'll probably get an alarm saying check your door or your door is open, something along those lines. All right, so loaded that side. Now I want to load my B channel. This is the one that's connected to my Alaris tubing. So my Alaris tubing is just going to be behind and out of the way. It's just going to be a feeder. And then I'm looking for that same exact section that I was doing on the other side. There we go. So once again, this same section. Disc goes in first. I've got my indentation. Load it right there. And then make sure I'm feeding that in between my air bubble detector. Close my door all the way. Close my latch all the way on both sides. Okay. Now, third thing is program the infusion. So, this is not a touchscreen at all. These buttons on the side work with the corresponding line. So if I go to this top one, it says new patient rate mode. If I click that, it'll give me a rate mode, but I'm not in my drug library. So I'm gonna be able to run mils per hour only. I wouldn't be able to do mics per kilos per minute or any other computation, but I would be able to do mils per hour over a VTBI. But once again, I'm not in my drug library, so I have no guardrails or safety or anything set up. So I'm gonna press cancel to get out of this. Cancel's kind of like my back button. Now I'm back to that main screen. I've got new patient drug library A, new patient drug library B. There's only one drug library. It's loaded into the back of the pump on an SD card. So anytime I'm seeing A and B like this, I'm talking about A and B channels. So I'm gonna go new patient drug library A for my A channel. And when I select that, it pops up on amiodarone because that's the first drug on the university drug list. So the first thing I'm gonna do is select a drug. And the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna scroll up and down to get to the drug that I want. So I'm gonna scroll and I'm gonna get to propofol. Now, there are two things I always have to put in after I select my drug. Always have to put in a dose, always have to put in a VTBI. I never have to do anything with concentration, and I never have to do anything with rate. And then if it's a weight-based drug, which propofol is, it's gonna ask me for a weight. If it's not a weight-based drug, this line will be blank. So, always have to put in a dose. I'm gonna purposely put in a high one just to show you some alarms. So I'm gonna say 301, and then I'm gonna jump down to my weight, and it's telling me I'm above a soft limit. Soft limits can be overridden just by pressing enter one time. If that was a hard limit, I cannot override it. So it's gonna tell me what the hard limit is. I just need to get under that hard limit, and that's set by your pharmacy from university. So I'm gonna do a lower dose than this. I'm gonna go 50. And then since this is a weight-based drug, I have to put in a weight. I'm gonna say this patient is 60 kilos. And then I always have to put in a volume to be infused, and I'm going to say it's 30 mLs. Now, once I put those parameters in, I have to press enter one time. When I press enter, it's going to give me a blinking indicator in the corner here. So I press enter, it's giving me a blinking indicator saying it's ready to start. A and B buttons, all they do are start and stop my channels. They're not going to toggle me between screens. They're not going to confirm selections. They're not going to do anything other than start and stop my channels. So I've put in all my info. It says I'm ready to start. I press A, and now I'm running. So I'm getting an alarm. PT occluded on A. There's an alarm section on my cheat sheet here that has all of the alarms. You'll notice on every single one it says press alarm silence. So this is saying PT occlusion on A, which means it's happening from the channel to the patient. And it's because I have this rolled off. Now, when I unclamp that, notice it does not fix the alarm. The pump is not intuitive enough to realize that the alarm has been fixed. So anytime I get an alarm, read it, fix it, then I have to silence it. But once I silence it, my prompt goes away and also my channel isn't running. So anytime I do an alarm, I have to restart my channel, which for A, I would just press A. And now I'm green, and now I'm running. Good to go. Okay, now I want to set up my B channel. So if I want to do my B channel, this can be a little confusing right here because it says channel B. If I select that, it takes me to my rate mode. So if you're working in your rate mode, then that's a nice shortcut for you. But if you're working in your drug library, this isn't what you want. Once again, my back button is cancel. So I press cancel, takes me back to the screen I was on. So now instead of hitting channel B here, I'm going to go into my menu right here. Menu gives me dose rate calculator A, dose rate calculator B. That is synonymous with your drug library. So drug library, dose rate calculator, same thing. So now I'm going to go dose rate calculator B for my B channel. And now I do the same exact thing that I just did on the A channel. So it comes up on the amiodarone because that's the first drug on the list. So now I'm going to scroll to get to another drug, whatever drug I want that's in the drug library. And Dex, yeah, I'll run Dex. So I'm going to go dose. I'm going to try to put in something high. So now it's saying I'm above a hard limit of 2.55. So I have to get under 2.55 because I can't override a hard limit. So I'm going to select it and I'm going to say 2. And then when I go to 2, it's saying I'm above a soft limit of 1.5. So if I want, I can get under 1.5, but since it's a soft limit, I can override it just by pressing enter. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to press enter. I override my soft limit, and then I can cruise. Weight, I don't have to do because I already have the 60 kilos in from my A channel. And then volume to be infused, I always have to put in. So I'm going to say volume to be infused on this is going to be 6 mLs. Okay, so put in all my parameters. Now I want to press enter one time. It'll give me that blinking indicator in the corner. Enter, gives me the blinking indicator saying I'm ready to start. Now, since I'm doing my B channel, I'm going to press B, and I'm running. So I'm just going to unclamp this so we don't, nope, it beat me to it. So PT occluded on B, same thing as we did last time. So PT, I know it's happening from the channel to the patient. I have this clamped off. If I unclamp it, once again, the machine is not intuitive enough to realize that the problem has been fixed. So I am going to go back here. I'm going to silence the alarm. I've already fixed the problem. So I need to restart this channel just by pressing B. And now both of my channels are blinking green. Okay. So this screen, when both channels are running, gets a little busy, but there is a solid line across the middle that separates A from B. So everything above that line is A, everything below that line is B. And I've got both on this one screen. Now, let's say I wanted to titrate. So this is obviously my MRI safe pump. This can go into zone 4, but when this is in zone 4 with the patient, I'm probably going to be out in zone 3 where the techs are. So let's say I want to do a titration from zone 3. The biggest mistake people make when they're titrating is they start hitting the A and B channels because they think they're selecting it or confirming or doing something. But remember, A and B, all they do is start and stop the channel, and that's it. So when I want to make a change, I'm actually going to highlight the thing that I want to change. Then I'll type in my new number, and then I'll press enter. So on my propofol, if I want to make that 50 a 40, I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to press 4 0, and then I'm going to press enter. And now my dose is 40 instead of 50, and you'll notice on my pump that it's also changed to 40. So once again, biggest mistake people make, they start hitting A and B. Not what we want to do. We just want to highlight, put in the new number, press enter. And then I always recommend that anytime you make a change, always get eyes on these green lights, because if these are not blinking green, that channel is not running. So I'm going to make a change on my DEX. So I'm going to do it from the remote control. I'm going to highlight my 2. I'm going to make it 2.1. 2.1. I'm going to press enter, and it's telling me I'm above my soft limit of 1.5. Because it's a soft limit and not a hard limit, I can override it just by pressing enter. That's what I'm going to do. So it's overridden. Now it's 2.1, and on the pump, it's 2.1 as well. Last couple things, bolusing. So if I want to run a bolus, there's not enough room on this screen when both channels are running. So I'm going to go into my menu. That's where the bolus is going to be. And you'll notice there's bolus A and bolus B. If it's on the pump, if it's giving you the option of both, then they can both be bolused. If one of these would be blank or both of these would be blank, then your pharmacy would not allow bolusing on that drug. But since we're running propofol and Dex, your pharmacy has enabled bolusing for both of those, so they're both an option. So I'm going to go bolus B for my Dex. I'm going to say the dose is 1, and then I'm going to highlight my time, and it auto fill. Is that a minute or 10 minutes? That's at 10 minutes. So I'm just going to type in, let's see here. Messing that up. All right, we're going to cancel out of this because I don't know why that auto filled to that. I'm going to go back to my menu. I'm going to go bolus A for propofol. Now I'm going to do a dose of 5 over a time of a minute. So now I can scroll in 6-second increments. So I'm going to go from a minute down to 54, etc., all the way down to 18 seconds. I'm going to press enter. It's saying I'm below a soft limit. Soft limits I can override by pressing enter. So I do that. Now my bolus is running. I've got 15 seconds left on my bolus. When my bolus is done, it'll give me a 3-second beep saying that it's done, and then it'll just revert back to the primary infusion. So you don't have to do anything after your bolus. It's just going to go back to what your infusion was, which I believe we were at 40 mics per kilo per minute. That's the end, and then I go back to my 40. I think that's about it. Yeah.
All right.